Did traditional, centuries-old European martial exercises using staves, clubs, dumbbells, and empty hands come to flourish in 19th century Japan, and do they survive there still? Today we're going to answer these questions and show exactly how those exercises were performed for the development of mind, body, and spirit by examining some extremely obscure historical sources, some of which have never before been discussed in English or even in the West at all prior to today. These European exercises first appeared in Japan during the transformative Meiji era, the late 1800s, when, following the forced opening of Japanese ports by American naval forces, a sort of civil war commenced over the cultural soul of Japan, fought between the traditionalists, loyal to the ancient ways, and the modernists who sought to westernize the country, a conflict which has in recent decades become fertile ground for Hollywood filmmakers, independent Japanese cinema, and even anime cartoons. Though Japan is, of course, renowned throughout the world for its popular native martial arts, the Meiji era ushered in a number of Western physical culture systems, that is, old-school fitness methods from Europe and America. At the time, Japan already had its own indigenous form of gymnastics. However, as early as 1872, only 4 years following the Meiji Restoration, treatises on Western exercise began appearing in Japan, published and translated into Japanese. Nearly all of these early texts were based on the methods and techniques of the German Turner School of Physical Culture. Founded in 1811 by militant revolutionary Friedrich Ludwig Jahn, the Turner movement created a new approach to physical fitness, utilizing the use of calisthenics, light dumbbells, staves, and heavy clubs, as well as emphasizing the cultivation of mind, body, and spirit, a philosophy that seems to have resonated with the Japanese. The Meiji authorities, in learning about the German Turners, felt that while the Japanese peasant and laboring classes were already physically fit, the Japanese upper classes and city residents were, on the other hand, weakening. Thus, they sought a new type of systematized exercise which could be applied in Japanese schools and in the military, to be practiced by both men and women. In 1878, Education Minister Tanaka Fujimaru brought over American George Adams Leland to begin imparting Western methods. Although Leland was an American, the early techniques he utilized at this time were overwhelmingly German, taken from authors such as Moritz Schreber, Samuel Mason, and Diocletian Lewis. As a result, the use of German calisthenics, or Freiübungen, which used closed fists and staccato, striking motions, as well as fencing lunges, soon spread throughout Japan. Other German-derived techniques included deep knee bends, arm-swinging exercises, and high kicks, or leg stretches. Breathing techniques were also a part of this method, including some in which the practitioner violently struck their own chest after deeply inhaling, or, as one text instructed, quote, hands on hips, inflate lungs as much as possible, emit the breath with the utmost slowness, and, quote, force the breath through the mouth in the manner of an abrupt and whispered cough. Some of the early Japanese texts also picture the use of a short staff, or wand, with techniques that can be traced back to 1840s Germany. Several additional European fitness tools were brought into Leland's system. A Japanese study done at the time claimed that training with such tools led to an increase in locals' lung capacity, chest size, grip strength, and even height. Leland's Japanese interpreter and eventual successor, Gendo Tsuboi, along with teacher Shuji Izawa, assigned Japanese names to each piece of gymnastic equipment: the dumbbell, Indian club, light wooden barbell, as well as horizontal bars, parallel bars, the vaulting horse, and rings. Even heavy German ring weights, similar to modern kettlebells, were taken up in Japan. The dumbbells used at this time were small, ornate, and made of hard wood. They were not used to cultivate strength through heavy lifting. Instead, as one Japanese author wrote, quote, the primary focus is on agile movements. Posture was also regarded as being extremely important. Sometimes the dumbbells were gripped by their ball ends, either to be swung in circular trajectories or touched on the ground as part of calisthenic movements. They were also used in synchronized group drills involving large numbers of people, both men and women, and were sometimes struck together either on one's own or against another partner's dumbbell, as you see here. Indian clubs, depicted in many Meiji-era woodblock prints, originated, as the name suggests, in ancient India. Around 1800, however, the practice was brought to Britain, and a little bit later, America and Germany, where it was taken up with extreme enthusiasm. The German turners used both heavy and light clubs and utilized both striking motions as well as continuous swinging of clubs in complex patterns, requiring great agility, finger strength, mobility, neuromuscular control, and presence of mind. Calisthenic actions with footwork were also done. The light wooden barbell, literally called a ball staff in Japanese, was, according to Japanese authors, quote, mainly used for correcting the body, especially spinal curvature and thoracic distortion. Placed behind the shoulders or back, this barbell could also be used in torso bending and twisting motions to increase flexibility, mobility, range of motion, and was often done in conjunction with deep lunging. These methods appear to have been effective, as, after undergoing Leland's course, one Japanese student enthused, quote, "My body has become healthier and my mind more active, and I have suffered from no disease. I have come to the conclusion that it is not expensive food or good medicine, but physical exercise that produces long life." Although Leland only taught in Japan for 3 years, upon his departure in 1881, he was succeeded as head instructor by his interpreter, Gendo Tsuboi, who would become a pivotal figure in the development of Japanese exercise methods. Throughout the 1880s, Tsuboi published a number of treatises, which blended German techniques with his own theories on physical education. Some ideas and techniques appear to likely be original, or modified by Tsuboi. For instance, the balancing postures shown here, done with closed fists. Another example is this unusual hand position, wherein the index finger is pointed and the fingers are snapped in sync to arm thrusts and calisthenic motions. In 1897, some competition to these methods appeared in the form of Unosuke Ozawa, who attempted to adapt martial arts into a gymnastic method intended for physical development and the maintenance of health. Although some superficial similarities to European methods can be found in Ozawa's text, such as the placement of the hands on the hips and some of the fundamental positions, most of his book appears to be based on traditional native Japanese techniques. The preface to Ozawa's book states, quote, "In martial arts, there are methods for both offense and defense, and it is important to become proficient and skilled in these. However, current research shows that martial arts training methods should be adapted to modern times, with consideration for health benefits and practical application. The protection and promotion of health are fundamental considerations for human life." End quote. Although a fascinating and seemingly noble-minded method, there is no evidence that Ozawa's native-inspired system was ever adopted on a wide scale. From 1900 to 1901, Gendo Tsuboi traveled abroad, studying physical culture in Germany, France, Scandinavia, Switzerland, London, and Boston, and according to Tsuboi's own account, was particularly impressed by the methods of Germany, England, and America. The influence of his German visit can be seen in his subsequent introduction of Tetsubo taiso, or iron wand exercises, upon his return to Japan. Utilizing a heavy iron staff or wand, The method published by Tsuboi during the early 1900s contains techniques and illustrations directly based upon a 1901 treatise from Leipzig, Germany, and also includes the rare technique of winding, which we recently demonstrated on this channel. Described as a, quote, exercise of skill, both fascinating and puzzling, winding used graceful, spiral-like movements to drive the wind into positions in which the practitioner's limbs retained serpentine holds. Soon after this time, Japanese educators developed additional interest in Swedish calisthenics, which had been founded in 1813 by fencing master Per Henrik Ling. Unlike the Turner School, the Swedish method disdained handheld fitness tools, and instead focused primarily on empty-handed calisthenics. Unlike the Germans, who traditionally utilized a closed fist, Swedish techniques emphasized outstretched fingers, deep lunges taken from European fencing, and various extreme stretching positions. As Swedish gymnastics were interwoven with the martial arts, calisthenics involved slow, intense leg and trunk exercises designed to strengthen the torso, and fast shooting motions with the limbs designed to develop agility, flexibility, and mobility. As documented in numerous historical Japanese photos, this method was taken up by the military, by women, and schoolchildren. So what happened to these exercises in Japan? Where are they today? Of the old fitness tools such as clubs, dumbbells, and wands, we have been able to find very little. Some small vestiges of the wand exercise may have survived, repurposed for the elderly. However, with all due respect to the practitioners, these modern techniques appear to be but pale, jaunty shadows of the vigorous, formal martial exercises of the Meiji era. However, as fate should have it, 19th century European calisthenics did survive in Japan, to some degree, in the form of a very popular practice known as radio taiso. Radio taiso was born, ostensibly, in 1928, when the government launched morning calisthenics to help everyone from school children to office workers stay healthy and active. Broadcast over the radio with music, it brought crowds of ordinary people together each morning to perform synchronized exercises that worked all parts of the body. Amazingly, even today, radio taiso still exhibits classic elements of the old European systems. For instance, the 1840s German Turner calisthenics, or Freiübungen, can be seen in the rotational arm motions, the side stretches, the arm flinging motions, which were originally done with dumbbells in hand, as well as the torso stretches. Other exercises in radio taiso are taken directly from 19th century Swedish gymnastics, one clear example being the touching of the shoulders, an intermediary position taken between quick arm stretches and synced with heel raises. These exact same patterns are clearly documented in the earliest Swedish sources, dating to the 1830s, throughout the rest of the century, as well as in Japanese sources from the early 1900s, and are still used in radio taiso today. Proof that, thanks to the phenomenon of transculturalization, rare living traditions of historical techniques, some of which are now extinct in Europe and America, can sometimes survive in the most unlikeliest of places. In this case, literally on the opposite side of the world from where they were born. If you'd like to know more about these exercises, we will be posting a list of links to the Japanese books referred to in this video on our Patreon account, where you can also learn more via supplementary materials. And if you'd like to see more videos like this about historical exercise, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.